You know, if you don't do very much work in the garden, it can sometimes begin to look rather horrible. So this story is called The Messy Garden. Sally Sutcliffe looked out on her garden through the long French windows. All she could see were lots of weeds, uncut grass, and piles of leaves. "Oh dear me, it's getting rather scruffy, isn't it?" she sighed. Steve Sutcliffe was standing right next to her and said in a guilty voice, "Yeah, I'm afraid you're right. With all the work in getting the house right and doing my job in London, I've tended to let things slip a bit out there." Now they both loved their garden dearly, but it was very, very large, and it would always need lots of work to help the flowers and vegetables grow, and to keep everything nice and tidy. Then Sally had a very obvious idea. "Oh, why don't we find a gardener? I'm sure we've got enough money to afford one, and if he does a really good job, we might be able to save money by growing all our vegetables and even selling some of the fruit from the orchard." Steve thought this was a magnificent idea. Not only would he get a beautiful garden, but he would no longer have to work so hard. He could just sit out in the garden on a hot summer's day, drinking iced lemonade and watching the children play. "I tell you what," said Sally, "why don't we go into the village shop and ask Meg if she knows anyone who might like to do a bit of part-time gardening for us?" Steve said they should do this when they next went shopping, but he also commented, "I don't think it's going to be just a part-time job. There's always going to be lots to do in the garden. I can see the gardener being here every day, and that's going to be very expensive." He had begun to have his doubts. On Saturday morning, Sally and Steve drove into the village, taking Felicity and Leo with them. The children liked this because Steve always bought a small bag of sweets in the village shop for them to share. "Hi, Meg," said Steve in a cheery voice to Meg when she appeared on the other side of the shop counter. "Nice to see you, Steve," she replied. "Now what can I do for you today?" "We want sweets," the children interrupted noisily. "Now hold on a minute," Steve said, waving his big finger at the children. "Be patient, because I've got something to ask Meg." "So, what's it all about?" asked Meg. "I hope you're settling in well at Heatherfield Farm." "Well, yes, it's going pretty well inside the house, but it's outside I've got a bit of a problem. You know, I think we've taken on more than we can handle. Sally and I have both come to the conclusion we are going to need help in the garden. I wondered, do you know any gardeners who might want to work for us?" Meg gave a very big smile. "Why don't you try my dad?" she suggested. "He used to work on Nathaniel Simmons' farm, but he retired 2 years ago, and he's been twiddling his thumbs ever since. He's a bit lonely too, since our mum died 4 years ago. He's brilliant with plants, and I think it would do him a bit of good to get out of his cottage and get active again. I can give you his address. He's only half a mile away from you." Steve was very grateful as Meg scribbled out her father's address on a scrap of paper. "There you are," she said, handing the address to Steve. "His name's Jacob Betts." Steve turned to Sally, looking rather relieved. "Problem solved," he whispered. Sally smiled back, got out her shopping list for all the things they needed for the next week, and didn't forget the sweets for Felicity and Leo. That afternoon, instead of driving to Jacob Betts' house in his car, he thought he would use his bike. It was a nice sunny day, and he thought fresh air and a bit of exercise along country lanes would do him some good. "Can we come too?" the children immediately piped up. We will race you there on our bikes." "Okay," Steve agreed, "but make sure you wear your helmets. Now, have you both had a pee before going?" Yes, they had both had a pee. "I want to put my dollies in the back of my bike," Felicity declared, holding a rag doll, one kangaroo, and a woolly rabbit under her arm. Immediately Felicity had said this, Leo went urgently looking for his carpenter's set. "I need my tools in case we break down," he insisted. Then Felicity had another idea. "Leo, we've got to ask Mummy to give us 2 bottles of drink, otherwise we'll be very thirsty." "We'll need sandwiches too," Leo added. "For heaven's sake," Steve exploded. "We're never going to get moving if you keep thinking of more things to take. We're not going on holiday, you know. Just down the road. It'll only take 10 minutes. "Oh, don't be an old grouch," said Sally. "It's a little adventure for them." Steve didn't reply. He just stayed quiet, realizing it was no use arguing. They all got on their bikes a quarter of an hour later, heading in the direction of Jacob Bett's cottage.